Is Senator Carper there? We'll move on to Senator Langford.
Oh, fuck.
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I think Senator Carper is there. I think he's
Okay.
trying to be able to queue it all up right now.
Senator Carper, can you unmute?
I'm unmuted.
Okay, there we go. We don't want to be on TV again.
Thanks so much for scheduling this hearing. I urged you to do this 3 weeks ago. You agreed to do it, and I'm grateful that you have. To the Postmaster General, thank you for finally returning my call. I called you for like 3 weeks, trying to get you to return my call after you taken office. Thank you for finally returning our call and talking with us last week. You know, you might be wondering, Mr. DeJoy, why there's some question and skepticism here. I've seen in my own office on constituent service, we get constituent services report every week. We've seen a steady upgrade and increase in concerns, complaints about postal service. And it's not just my office, it's Senate offices and House offices all over the country. And frankly, they coincided with the time that you took office. Even this morning, I just got a message from Joe Manchin, Senator from West Virginia. Been earlier this week in the Charleston Mail Distribution Center, talking about how all this equipment, sorting equipment, has been taken out. They serve 5 states from out of that place. And so it's not just a little Delaware, it's all over the country. Maybe it's just a coincidence. I'm not so sure. But here's why we're skeptical. We got a president who doesn't want to have vote by mail. We got a president who'd like to suppress the vote. We got a president who would like to see the postal service not do well. I've worked for almost 20 years on this committee to try to make sure we have a vibrant, active, meaningful postal service. You come from Greensboro, North Carolina, just north of, just south of where I grew up in Danville, Virginia. We had voter suppression in this country almost from the get-go. Even though our first Postmaster General, Benjamin Franklin, said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to let everybody have, freedom and right to choose their own votes. It hadn't been that way. Women didn't get to vote. Blacks didn't get to vote. We still have voter suppression. The last congressional election they had in North Carolina, you know what happened? Half the people voted for Democratic candidates for Congress. Do you know how many Democrats were elected out of 13 seats? 3. I mean, we have seen poll taxes, we have seen literacy tests, all this stuff. And when I see what's going on with the president who wants to degrade the Postal Service, wants to get rid of vote by mail, we shouldn't be surprised that we're alarmed when we see the kind of degraded service that we're seeing across the country. It wasn't that long ago, we had an overnight mail service in the metropolitan area. It wasn't that long ago, we had from coast to coast mail delivery within 3 days. And we don't have that anymore. So people should be, if people seem skeptical, they have a right to be skeptical. I want to just say, after the public uproar that we've seen here in my state and other states about delays and failure to deliver the mail, you've committed to freeze additional operational changes until after the election. Good. But we're going to need more information than that, especially given reports that came out last night showing that you and your team are actually considering more extreme changes than those we've seen to date, including changes that will slow down the mail even further, post office and plant closings, massive service reductions to Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, making mail more expensive to the U.S. citizens living there, price changes that would nearly double the cost for price changes that would double the cost of voting by mail, dramatic price hikes on packages that will disproportionately impact small businesses in rural communities that rely on the Postal Service while erasing your competitive advantage over FedEx and UPS. We need to be worried about this, and I am. I don't ask a lot of yes or no questions. I'm going to ask you a couple today, and I'd ask you just give me a simple yes or no answer. You'll have an opportunity in the responses for the record to expand on those, but I'm going to ask you for yes or no answers. Yes or no, are you considering the dramatic service changes that I just outlined, which we've just learned about in the last 48 hours? Are you considering those dramatic service changes? Just yes or no?
Senator, there's a dramatic
I'm asking for a yes or no answer.
We're considering dramatic changes to improve the service to the American people. Yes.
Yes or no, will you restore the mail collection and processing capacity that the Postal Service has lost in recent weeks during your tenure?
Senator, as I said, I did not direct that. I directed it. I stopped it. It's insignificant. It's not material to anything that we do, and we're sticking with where we're at right now.
Recently, the president was caught red-handed when he admitted to not wanting the Postal Service to have additional resources because the Postal Service would use these resources to enable election mail. And when asked about providing necessary relief, the president stated, quote, if we don't make a deal, that is a deal with the Congress, that means they don't get the money, they being the Postal Service. That means they don't get universal mail-in voting. They just can't have it. No wonder we're somewhat skeptical and dubious. My understanding is you have had more than a passing acquaintance with this president. My understanding, you've been a huge supporter financially of the president. My understanding is when we were going to have a convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, you were heavily involved in leading the raising of money for that convention. No wonder we're a little bit skeptical about this when we have a president talking down the Postal Service, talking down vote by mail. Another yes or no, and you can expand on the record on this. Yes or no? Will you remain independent of the president of this administration and make service decisions that support the American people first? Will you? That's services that support the American people having fast, efficient, and affordable mail service, especially with regard to mail-in ballots. Will you remain independent of this administration? That's it. Will you remain independent?
Yes, will remain independent of this.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeJoy, during our call earlier this week, you said that you supported additional cash assistance for the Postal Service. So do we. The Postal Service has, $15 billion of roughly cash on hand and a new $10 billion line of credit that comes with some very troubling conditions dictated by the administration. The Postal Service has had massive declines in first-class mail. We know that. It averaged 15-20% below last year's first-class mail volume. The Postal Service package volume is higher, though. The normal one has sustained it through the pandemic. My guess is those volumes will come down somewhat after the pandemic. All this is to say the Postal Service's $15 billion in cash balance could quickly disappear, and I believe the Post Office needs to approve the Board of Governors' $15 billion request from earlier this year to cover loss to COVID. Last yes or no question. Do you support the federal appropriation of the Postal Service to cover its COVID-related losses? Yes or no? Do you support the federal appropriation to the Postal Service to cover its COVID-related losses?
Yes. COVID-related losses I do support.
Thank you very much. Mr. Postmaster General, my family's had a heavy military involvement throughout our lives. I'm a last Vietnam veteran serving in the United States Senate. My mother's youngest brother died in a kamikaze attack in 1944 on his aircraft carrier in the Western Pacific. He gave his life for this country. My grandmother's the Gold Star mother. We have my father's a veteran. I'm a veteran. We have generation after generation of Americans who have been willing to risk their lives, lay down their lives, so we will have the right to vote. We got a lot of people who are sick and afraid of going out and voting this year because they don't want to stand in lines and come down with a virus that could take their life. This is a serious matter. And I just want you to urge you to work with us, not like be apart from us, not return our calls, work with us as we attack the needs to build the kind of postal service that we can all be proud of. Thanks very much.